Does this map show Antarctica without ice? How's that for an opening statement? This is the Piri Reis map, a 500-year-old map that some today claim is proof that Antarctica was ice-free just half a millennium ago. Alright, that is a big, bold claim, but is there some truth to it? What does this map show? What secrets does it hold? And what is that large landmass you see at the bottom? Is it proof that Antarctica was discovered much earlier than we might think it was? What is this tantalizing but frustratingly incomplete artifact? Today we are going to take to the sea and follow the Piri Reis map, explain it, and find out the truth behind this mysterious, fragmentary document. And of course, look into the mystery of what that large landmass on the bottom really is, and if it is proof that Antarctica might have been ice-free in our very recent history. The Piri Reis map was created in 1513 by, you'll never guess who made it, a gentleman named Piri Reis. While only about a third of the map in its entirety survives, it holds a lot of mysterious things that people to this day get confused over. Look at that, Piri Reis, you made a map of the world to clear things up and you only confused us all. The map itself was lost until 1929 when it was rediscovered, and on the page of this chart we find some fascinating details. First, South America is as detailed and accurate as it could have been at the time, and this is attributed to a now lost map made by some guy you've never heard of named Christopher Columbus. I think he might have sailed the ocean a few times or something. I don't know. Now, as I said, the map itself was compiled from many sources and then drawn by Piri Reis. In 1528, he then drew a second world map, which actually showed more landmasses not in the original, including Greenland, more of North America, including Florida, Newfoundland, and some other regions. Now, the map this video in question covers is his earlier 1513 map. One of the sources he would use for his map came from when he was serving in the Ottoman Empire Navy, when, after one specific battle, a Spaniard from that Christopher Columbus guy's voyage who was captured had a map on him that contained an early depiction of North America. After being completed, Reis's map would then disappear from history sometime after the 1517 conquest of Egypt until 1929 when it was rediscovered in an ancient library. Specifically, the parchment that contains the surviving fragment of the map is what was found and not the whole thing. The map fragment we have is the remaining western third of a world map. It is drawn on gazelle skin parchment, and our surviving portion shows the Atlantic Ocean, Africa, Europe, and South America. The map shows an atypical amount of knowledge of foreign discoveries. The map is sourced from many sources, and overall, the map is an improvement of earlier ones, and one that is far more accurate than any of the others that preceded it. The Caribbean in particular is noteworthy, as it is based off one of Columbus's lost maps. Okay, so now we come to the question of, what is this big massive land in the southern part of the map? Pseudo-historians and archaeologists argue that this artifact proves Antarctica was not only ice-free just 500 years ago. No. Actual historians agree that the southern mass of land is most likely the once hypothesized continent Terra Australis, which was a hypothetical landmass thought to exist and was drawn on maps specifically from the 15th to 17th centuries, never based on direct observation, but rather the idea that landmass in the northern hemisphere was likely balanced by land in the south. Hindsight being 2020 and all, we know from supercontinents that north and south balance really isn't much of a concern for Earth, but the theory itself went all the way back to the 5th century. Now, the most popular conspiracy theory about this map is that the landmass is Antarctica, and proof that it was not only discovered before the first documented landing in 1820, but it was also entirely ice-free only 500 years ago. Yeah. So we have a big pill to cover here, a pill so big that if it slammed into the ground, it likely would hit with the force of the Chicxulub impactor. Claims that the landmass is in fact Antarctica began with one Captain Arlington H. Mallory, who was an amateur archaeologist and a supporter of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, which, like some non-avian dinosaurs surviving the KT mass extinction to a few thousand to a few million years, is an interesting thought experiment and an idea to play with, but only a few examples of it are accepted to have occurred. Mallory used the grid on the map to reposition the coordinates on the map, and then he claimed that the accuracy was on level with modern maps. From there, the idea found its way to one Charles Hapgood, and in his 1966 book, Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, he proposed the theory of an undiscovered pre-classical era civilization that explored the globe, using other ancient maps from the Renaissance and medieval eras to back his claims up. Hapgood's theory also, by his own admission, disregarded the text and some of the landmasses on the map outright. In one case, he looked at Cuba and basically said, "That isn't Cuba," and added that the guy who drew up the map was wrong, and he, looking at it 500 years later, is the one who was right. Finally, Hapgood and some of his supporters brought forth the theory that the Piri Reis map shows Antarctica in the Neolithic, completely ice-free. Okay, forget hitting with the force of the Chicxulub impactor. This hard-to-swallow pill is going to hit with the force of the Vredefort impactor. That's a big, bold claim, and not a lot of evidence for why. So once again, it is thought that the southern landmass is likely a representation of Terra Australis. It was very common for maps at the time to show a theoretical southern continent that had never been observed. It came partially down to the idea of balancing landmasses between the hemispheres, and maybe even a little bit of just not wanting to leave the map so blank because one with more new land is way more impressive. Also, various maps from that time show a vague land to the south, but do not have any matching details and coasts if you compare them. Again, they were mapping land they had never seen, or just outright filling in blank space. Now, if you look at the map again, the southernmost point of land that is conclusively identified is the coast of Brazil. That one's pretty obvious. It's the thing jutting up from the southmost bottom point of the map that throws people into a kerfuffle. First and foremost, Antarctica is not that close to Brazil, unless it was vacationing along the equator in the 1500s, in which case, yeah, it probably didn't have any ice. So if it's not Antarctica, then what is this little splotch of land not quite down under? According to Cartographic historian Svat Sulskik, I really hope I said your name right, but I probably didn't, it was not unusual for cartographers to adjust the orientation of a coastline to fit with the surface available. In fact, it is likely that the landmass on the bottom of the map is a known landmass that has simply been bent to the side a little bit. It bears a lot of visual similarities to a few places we know, such as the Strait of Magellan's Atlantic opening. Or it could even just be the coast of South America itself being distorted to push it east, or just drawn to fit on the map itself. Now, textual evidence for what the specific area is supposed to be from the map itself are scant, but boas are mentioned in it, and they are not found quite as far south as some of the proposed regions I mentioned. I will admit, however, that it does not throw fuel into the "It's Antarctica" fire, because they cannot survive there either. Another reason it is agreed that it is not Antarctica without ice: the coastline of Antarctica that is buried under the ice has been imaged, and bears no resemblance to the coastline on the map itself, besides some minor similarities that in and of itself are not enough to make or break the case. But the fact that none of the noteworthy features of the coastline are there on the map are, well, noteworthy. Also, the landmass to the south is clearly connected to South America. Unless I really failed geography class, Antarctica is not. Our friend Hapgood again also believed that Antarctica was ice-free not only a few thousand years ago, and that prehistoric civilizations might have been aware of it, but in order to get his theory to work, he had to disregard specific things on the map, such as specific land, and text, and current scientific studies, the post-glacial rebound, and the map maker has to be the one who was wrong and not him in order for his theory to work, the guy reading the map 500 years later. His theory, however, has grown to be just fuel thrown onto the fire for ancient alien theories, Atlantis or an Atlantis equivalent lost civilization theories, UFO theories, and are supported by the likes of pseudo-historians and scientists like Graham Hancock, individuals who oftentimes rely on confirmation bias to support their theories rather than real, substantial evidence. Also, it's worth mentioning that while there was a time in Earth's past that Antarctica was lush and completely ice-free, the last time that happened to the degree that is being proposed here was sometime around the Cretaceous. Antarctica has had some amount of ice coverage for the last 34 million years, and the last time it was significantly ice-free was 10 million years ago. That's just a little older than this map and other maps that conspiracy theorists claim show it being completely ice-free. Just a little bit, 500 years, 10 million years, they're pretty close. Math doesn't lie, though, and those numbers just don't add up. And look, I'm not trying to make any bad faith arguments. People proposing theories is wonderful. Some of the most crazy ideas ever proposed sometimes panned out to be true. But when literally all the evidence goes against a theory, a good scientist, historian, or researcher will admit they were wrong and not dig their heels in thinking everyone is out to get them or silence them. That is arguing in bad faith. Proposing an idea on its own is not. Refusing to accept evidence that refutes that idea is. Another map that is often claimed by conspiracy theorists to show Antarctica when it doesn't is the Ornithius-Phineas map. This map shows an inferred massive continent on the bottom of the planet, far larger than Antarctica, spanning from some islands off the coast of South America, separated by the Strait of Magellan, all the way to the northmost point of Australia, completely engulfing the coastline. And speaking of the coastline, it doesn't even match up with Antarctica. Fellow YouTuber Mini Minuteman had a fantastic video on this map, and I 100% agree with his theory that what we see here is simply an inferred massive land, essentially, that spans from Antarctica all the way down to the tip of South America. On this map, you can also see more examples of distorted coastline like what I was talking about. Look at the shape of Africa. It does not look like that. It looks like it was all squished and compressed on this map. It baffles me how some people put more stock in very erroneous maps like this than they do satellite imagery. One is not equal to another. We live in an incredible time of information being available and being advanced, and sometimes it feels like we're going backwards. Spino, if you want to have a snack, there's some people who I think would be very nice for that role. Look, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I've said it many times in my videos. And there is no extraordinary evidence for Antarctica being ice-free 500 years ago. Was there millions of years ago when the climate was completely different? Yes. And as I said, geologic evidence, ice samples, everything we know about the atmosphere of the Cenozoic for the last few million years all tells us that Antarctica has been frozen over to some degree for 30 million years. A fragmentary parchment from 500 years ago that doesn't even show Antarctica is not extraordinary evidence that proves otherwise. Admittedly, we don't know exactly what that southernmost landmass is, but it is agreed by all that it is not Antarctica for a multitude of historic and scientific reasons, many of which I just went over. Look, conspiracy theorists, I know that is a hard to swallow pill, but conspiracy doesn't replace truth, so swallow it. One day someone is going to edit that last part and put it into something completely out of context, and it's going to be great. I can't wait. At the end of the day, this fascinating artifact is incomplete. And as such, it is still holding a few mysteries close. But one mystery that has been definitively closed and disproven by all who argue in good faith is that this map does not show Antarctica hundreds of years before it was discovered, thousands of miles out of place, and ice-free. But what exactly it shows just south of Brazil is a captivating debate. Debate. I said debate. I don't know what a debate is. It is a captivating debate. A debate that with each examination, with each new study, we are inching closer to finding out the truth behind. Perhaps it is a representation of Terra Australis, or just the coastline of Brazil being moved a little bit so it'll fit on the map. Who knows? Perhaps one day, the figurative blank spaces on the map will indeed be filled in once again. Let's talk in the comments and have some good faith arguments together. Have a good one, everyone.